And welcome everyone to the Shitlord Preacher podcast. This is episode 23. Welcome everyone who is
Yes.
watching, joining us, or joining us afterwards in the recording. My name is Amos Joseph. I'm joined by my good friend here, Brook Potter. This is our 23rd episode. We
A
are
new
back on.
record.
Yeah, we are back on track to making this as weekly as possible. Um, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time and watching this episode, just a little background. Uh, Brooke and I are good friends. We've known each other for about 5, 6 years, probably longer. Yeah.
Yeah, about five.
I'm always forgetting how many years, but basically, we both used to be Christian ministers. And ever since then, when we kind of shifted away from that, we realized that politics was just as interesting, if not more interesting than theology and dealing with people of different beliefs in areas of cognitive dissonance, logical fallacies, and so on. But I'm just going to let Brooke introduce himself real quick before we get into the show.
Thank you, Amos. Yeah, as my good friend Amos just said, my name is Brook Potter, originally from the Twin Island nation of Trinidad and Tobago. I've recently moved out. Well, not so recently anymore. It's been over a year. I moved out to London in the UK, and I've been making a life for myself out here. And yeah, as Amos has rightly said, especially in the UK, I'm kind of on the front lines of a lot of this social justice and progressive narrative where state power is definitely kind of overreaching out here, as the state in Europe is quite serious, and has a lot of people wondering if the West is really going to survive. And so what I feel it's important for me to be out here and speak and try to push back a little bit on a lot of those kind of progressive narratives. And let it also serve as a warning, especially to the guys in the US and stuff like that. This stuff is coming, whether you like it or not. And we can't just sit idly by. We need to speak out and really push back against this stuff. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, so we're changing our schedule a little bit. I think,
Why are we
yeah,
changing the schedule, man? Like, what's going on?
my work schedule's changed. So
Oh,
today is a day off
sucks.
for me. So we're going to be doing the plan as of now is going to be this Monday, well, being today, as well as next Monday, we'll be doing the stream. And then depending upon if I can get my schedule changed a little bit more, possibly shifting it to Sundays. So more of a weekend time. Hopefully more people can join that way. Since we're doing it in the middle of the week, it's kind of odd because most people are probably at work. But a couple of things we wanted to talk about today. We just kind of whipped this together, but definitely is some interesting stuff. I found an article posted by Matt Christensen. He basically posted this article from the New York Times. I'm sorry. HuffPo, Huffington Post. Even better.
Huffington cancer.
The article is titled. Let me just. Whoop,
Ooh, is that your phone or is that an ad?
phone.
Oh, okay. I hope it's not important.
No, I silenced it. I was like, what? Um, Basically, let's just take a quick look. Yeah. The title of the article is For Fancy Racists, Classical Liberalism offers respect and intrigue. So, kind of with the rise of this idea of classical liberalism, when you talk to people like Dave Rubin, kind of the circles around him with the intellectual dark web, you're hearing a lot more of this term classical liberalism versus your run-of-the-mill liberal today versus your conservatives.
Progressive. Yeah,
Yeah,
progressive.
progressive liberals. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to go through that one. But Brooke, you had something you wanted to share regarding our God
Yeah,
Emperor.
yeah. The God Emperor Trump. um, No, I mean, I'm sure a lot of our viewers know about the situation that happened with Alex Jones, where he was basically deplatformed from, I think, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and probably a couple others. And I think he even went on to Vimeo, which is an alternative to YouTube, and I think they took him down as well. I think the only platform he has left is Twitter, plus his Infowars app. Anyway, so this has been kind of a continuous trend. Candace Owens, who is this, conservative black woman in the US, I think she was recently banned on Twitter. They said it was a mistake and stuff like that, and they kind of recounted it. But there's been an increased amount of the social media and the tech giants has seemed to be enforcing their political will upon the people. And it kind of violates their idea that they're just a platform. They're just letting everybody speak, but now they're picking who can speak and who can't speak, and that actually changes it legally from this platform to now you're a media company and you're now liable for certain things. But the most amazing thing of all, which I think was definitely necessary, is the God Emperor, Trump. He actually tweeted out about this censorship. Now, anybody who knows, Trump was on the Alex Jones show, and he actually, I don't know if he listens regularly, but he attributed a lot of his support to Alex Jones. So it looks like the White House is going to be responding. We're going to touch a little bit about that when we get into it. But Amos, what's going on with your diet?
So we wanted to give a quick little update on just little things I've noticed with this.
Because you're over a month now.
Over a month now. Definitely having some. It's you put so much mental energy in that first month that once you're past that, it's so easy to just be like, oh, I'm done. So definitely not doing that. Definitely not just stopping. Some of you who may be seeing on my Twitter, I posted a couple things on the day after the month where I kind of did some cheat meals. Couple things that I basically had breakfast at a Perkins where I had fruit included in the meal. I ordered unsweetened tea, which is actually what I'm drinking right now. Unsweetened tea with a lemon in it. So,
no, blasphemy.
And then for dinner, I had a full 24 bone rack of ribs, but it had sauce on it. So there's the sugar there. With green beans that was cooked in bacon. And then corn. So corn, I found out, was actually a grain, which is carbs. So being it's corn, I guess it didn't. Yes, it's still considered a cheat. But I didn't really feel so bad afterwards. I didn't feel, bloated and back pain and stuff. Felt a little off. Definitely it was just different foods. My body obviously had like a reaction, but it wasn't anything or like pain flared up when I ate the fried chicken or bloating or stuff.
Did you have pain when you ate fried chicken?
I told you week 3 I had the fried chicken.
Yeah.
I was bloated the rest of the day, and my back pain flared up for 2 full days.
Wow. Okay.
Just not like, in pain, but it was just I would just sitting, moving, just could feel it more. So definitely interesting there. And of course, this morning I told you I had as I called it, the Charley Horse from hell. I basically woke up and usually the whole, I guess, process of getting a Charley Horse is like you're stretching, and then like once you're at the sort of like, when you're stretching, you kind of like hold the muscle in a certain position to stretch, and then once you kind of reach that like peak, you're stretched out, you kind of just then you relax. I didn't even get to that. It was just like a slight twitch, and my right calf just immediately seized up, and I didn't yell, but I just kind of was like, kind of an audible ow that my neighbors upstairs made a sort of a rustle that like they heard me, like I maybe woke them up.
Wow. Okay.
But
your calf, you said,
it was my calf. And so I went to the Facebook group that Brooke and I are part of called Zeroing In on Health. For anyone who's interested in the diet, can definitely check it out. A lot of similar things. What it came down to is people saying, yes, I'm definitely consuming enough salt, meat, I'm eating enough. My body is definitely, I didn't have any cramps the whole first month, but they just say, keep doing what I'm doing. Some people are talked about certain supplements you can have to help with something like that. I'm definitely looking into all that, but I think, in all honesty, it's probably, I mean, people get Charley horses.
Yeah, even if they're not on this diet.
Yeah, even if they like ate a banana. It's just stuff can getting your potassium. That's kind of the big concern with this diet. And I mean, I have sea salt, which has plenty of salts in it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I mean, I told him I had 3 ribeyes all covered in salt. Not like covered, but enough that it was like, it was delicious. I had my salt and I was fine. But Charley Horse is going to just happen.
What's your water intake? It's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because tea is a bit of a diuretic, and so is the meat and the salt. So you really do need to keep your water.
Oh yeah, that's another thing too with the whole water. We talked about water retention. Like when you're on a high carb, well, when you have more carbohydrates, your water retention's all over the place.
Yeah.
With this, ever since I've pretty much cut out most sugars, all the refined sugars, when I don't drink water, I actually get a dehydration headache.
Wow. Yeah. There you go.
And that's a weird thing, because I always was like, well, I'm not on caffeine or any high amounts of sugar. Why am I getting a headache? And I realized it's water. Never had that before. Well, I haven't had that in a while.
Right.
Usually headaches were from, short-term sort of withdrawal from pops and stuff that I drank, which was another thing we tried out. Not pop, sugary drinks. I pretty much had it's this drink called Body Armor or something. It's basically like a fruit mix, sort of a hydration drink. So it's like a Gatorade, but like fruity juice kind of thing. So it's around the same size as this, kind of like an 18-ounce bottle. And it had 18 grams of sugar, I think.
Wow, that's a lot.
And I just thought, what would happen if I drank this? Like, how would I feel? Well, I drank it. Obviously, it tasted good with all the sugar and sweetened it. Got a headache. Well, got like a buzz sort of headache, a buzzing headache. So I could feel the buzz of the sugar in my head. Had a slight just headache from that. And instantly, like, certain sugar cravings were like kicking in, which indicates to me is probably my insulin is kicking in, like sugar.
Yeah.
Body's telling me to consume more sugar. So that is, so if I'm reacting that way to that, I can't imagine what's going to be like if I drink it, like even a can of like Mountain Dew or something, or Coke.
Yeah, those are packed with sugar. Even orange juice has a lot.
Oh, yeah. But it was just like, okay, so that's what it's like. Body is very sensitive to that now.
Do you have a lot of people following you on Instagram with this whole, on Twitter, on following you on this diet?
Well, a couple people are definitely asking me about it. I know our friends over at HuffPo Supremacy, Nico and Shane, they're going to be doing it in October.
Cool.
But we're still working on setting up a time where I'm going to be talking to them about it. And then there's another friend who's kind of part of the HuffPo group, Jessica. She's a mom of 3 kids. She does like a YouTube channel on health and stuff. So she's going to be trying that. Yeah, a couple people are people are definitely interested. My family's definitely knows about it and thinks it's interesting. And as Brooke, you've mentioned, and I haven't noticed too much. Apparently I've lost weight.
Yeah. I was about to ask if you'd noticed any other changes.
I haven't noticed.
Clothes-wise.
Clothes-wise, just if anything, clothes that were more snug are just more loose. Not like loose, but just you could feel that they're fitting better. So
right.
It's
too bad you didn't get a scale, man. That would have, it would have been good to document that,
Yeah. But we'll see. Even just having like a rough idea of what my weight was before, and if I do this another couple months, definitely will be able to catalog like a noticeable, like, oh, I dropped at least this much weight or something.
Yeah.
So
that was my next question. Are you going to continue the diet?
Yeah. I'm definitely. Right now, for the next couple weeks, you're definitely. I shouldn't say couple weeks. For the next week or two here, I'm just kind of basically experimenting, seeing what foods do what to me. We obviously know what carbs do. We know what sugar is doing. I wanted to see what alert. Well, I told you I'm going to be heading up to our friend's place next week, and I thought might as well try a pizza and see what that does. And you were going to do that too.
That's my temptation. There's a great pizza place. Now I'm a pizza lover, and I thought of all things I couldn't do this diet was because of the lack of pizza. But there's a great pizza place not too far from here. My only concern is that the smallest pizza they have is a medium, and it's pretty big. It's 6 slices.
How many inches?
Like, not much, like 12 inches, I think.
Okay, yeah, it's a medium.
Yeah, so it's like a medium, basically. I would prefer to do a small, just to have like a couple slices and see how it goes. But if I have the whole 6 and it's just me, that means I got to eat it like maybe a couple days to eat it. So I've been trying to convince my girlfriend to get a pizza, and I'll just have like a couple slices. But
yeah, I mean, you said you were going to try to do like a thin crust to really dial down the carbs.
Yeah, I'll probably do that like Pizza Hut or one of these Domino's and stuff. They do thin crust. So.
Yeah, make sure you don't die. I mean, that's one of those things that I kind of talked about. The habit that you form of doing this diet kind of leads you to be more cautious of foods you're ingesting.
Yeah, it really does.
It is a diet that can be enjoyable enough that you can basically kind of get through it. It's not like these, vegan
and
it's
calorie counting.
Not that I would advocate for this, but I haven't really done much for exercise, even though my job is somewhat physically demanding, but it's nowhere near like exercise and working out. So I myself have seen changes. So, I mean, Brooke, we realized that Brooke is working out, so he's losing weight more.
Sure.
But regardless of the fact, we're both losing weight, just at different paces. This diet, as much as it's high fat, high protein, zero carb, and near zero sugar, we're still managing to lose fat.
Yeah.
So. But
a guy once told me, he said, like, if you're on any kind of diet, within the first month, you will notice the changes in your body.
Right.
By the second month, your friends and family will notice the changes in your body. And by the third month, the world will notice the changes in your body, right?
That makes sense.
I'll just quickly comment on this. So yeah, I go to the gym not too far from here. There's like a community center that I go to and stuff like that. And I've been going there solid now 3 times a week for maybe 2.5 months. So maybe almost 3 months. And I got into it slow, like once a month, and I build up to 3 times a month and stuff like that. Anyway, there's some pretty cute girls at this gym and stuff like that. And I've noticed that they'll notice me when I'm at the gym now. Like, they're like, hi, and, good morning and whatever and stuff like that. So yeah, it's something good's going on, man. So I'm appreciating that, so yeah, I'll be continuing this for the near future. And I know some people are very interested in this. Definitely get into the Facebook groups and do some research. So like our friends Nico and them, I think I told Nico that if you're gonna do it, go in. You need support. Definitely jump on that. Another friend of ours, I don't think you met him, but Tony Sai. He's a friend of mine. Yeah, Tony. He's been doing it for 6 months, and now he's promoting it. Like on his Facebook page, he's like, if anybody's sick, any ailment, eat meat and water for 30 days, and see what happens. And of course, he's got a lot of shit. All the supposed health experts. And I had one experience out here. Well, just quick 2 anecdotes. I went out for drinks with a friend of mine. Now I'm a rum guy. I like to drink my rum. I now have to drink vodka and soda water, which is like tasteless. It's got no flavor, no taste or anything.
So you gotta drink more, get drunk, so you at least can bear with it.
And that's the thing. You actually get drunker faster on this diet because I'm not retaining as much water in my body, which dilutes the alcohol. So I'm actually...
Yeah, and you're not eating carbs, which absorbs the alcohol.
Which keeps it in the body and stuff like that. So I went out with a couple friends and stuff like that, And I told them that I was doing the carnivore diet, and of course they thought I was fucking crazy. And they're like, "No, meat is bad for you, this, that, the other, and stuff like that." And so we went afterwards. We went to McDonald's, and I ordered like the signature burger with bacon, with nothing else. So it literally just came with like a box with a patty and 2 strips of bacon on it. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And one more trip I made out to the zoo, the London Zoo, this Friday, just gone. And I went to the cafeteria there, and eating out is a real issue. I'm sure, Amos, you would agree with that. Mm-hmm. So I went up to the lady selling the burgers. I said, "How much for just the patty? Just the burger patty?" It's like, "What? No salad?" And her expression, it's like, no. I said, "Do you want it in a bun?" I said, no, just the meat, just the meat. So I got like a kebab type thing, like a skewer of meat of like chicken something. It had a little sauce on it, and a burger patty. And I went to the cash register, and they're like, "What the fuck is going on? Like, what? Where is the rest of your meal? You're supposed to get like 2 sides, potatoes and vegetables,
right.
and all this other stuff." And I'm not going to explain. I just said I'm allergic to vegetables, right? Because I don't want to have to explain the diet, right?
I'm on this crazy diet.
Yeah, it's like, I need to have this discussion with, and there were like 3 cashiers there looking at me. I don't need to have this discussion. And I mean, they were good. I mean, they basically charged me for like a full burger meal instead of 2 separate meals, which is still pricey. But yeah, going out is an issue. I have to find like a Brazilian barbecue, which would probably be really good.
I mean, there's one here, but it's only $150 a person or something.
Oh, but it's odd though, isn't it? That's still very heavy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I'm thinking if this carnivore diet really becomes popularized, more people are doing it. Someone's going to make a killing if they do some sort of like a carnivore, more like a
Restaurant.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's barbecues and all this stuff, and people could say, well, there's obviously plenty of places to get meat, but I mean, places like fast food or even some sort of a food product that is driven towards like a meal devoted to meat.
Yeah.
Because when I went, so my cheat day, I go to Famous Dave's. Well, barbecue, right? Well, they still had, your 2 sides. You're still getting some vegetable. You're still getting some, or a potato or something if you want. And then it comes with a muffin. I had to tell them I don't want the muffin.
Right.
Cornbread muffin. And I'm just like, wow, like.
And they still charge you. They still charge you for everything.
Well, yeah, it still charges the full meal. So, I mean, what am I going to do? Go tell them like, how much for just the ribs or something? I was thinking of doing that, but then I thought, well, it's the cheat day. I'll have like some veg. But then I realized corn's not veg. So,
yeah, it is a challenge. I agree with you. I was thinking the same thing. Maybe we should start a restaurant chain like devoted just meat, like meat and fat, right? So we could like chop up the fat and you fry it up like chips, like fries, and you got different cuts of meat and stuff like that. And like how people dish out chips, we do the fried fat and stuff.
Fried fat. Oh, jeez.
I mean, that's what a lot of these guys are doing. They go to the butcher and they buy the fat that they cut off, like the ribeyes and the sirloins and stuff like that. Cut them up and they throw them in the stir fry with some butter, and it comes out all crispy and stuff, and they eat that.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure what is the best ratio, I guess, of fat to protein, because if you have too much fat, you get, let's just say, your bowel movements aren't the best.
Right.
But if you eat too little fat, you're not getting your energy. So it's kind of...
Yeah. They say it's like 80-20, but yeah, you got to kind of figure out where you're at with that whole thing.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I have at 80-20 is the hamburger patties where I buy the meat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But enough about our diet before we start sounding like vegans or CrossFit people. Let's go. So, yeah, Matt Christensen posted this article. I kind of briefly looked it over. But yeah, here we go. So HuffPo is talking about classical liberalism, and of course they put Paul Ryan as the picture.
I mean, is he classical liberal, or
the dude's like a Republican? I mean, if anything, put Rubin on here or something.
I would have thought so. Yeah, Rubin or even Sargon or Milton Friedman. I mean,
Yeah. So I'll just briefly read this. The world would not be quite so riven with death and destruction if America's political elite had a better taste in music. What? Okay.
classic.
Classic rock, for instance, is a fraud. It never existed. Jimmy Page never turned to Robert Plant and said, "Hey, let's start a classic rock band." Led Zeppelin did not imagine itself to be part of the sonic movement that included Billy Joel. That idea came from corporate radio gurus in the 80s. They called their marketing concoction classic rock. So they start off talking about classic rock. The same is true for classical liberalism, a moniker currently in vogue among a particular right-wing set that would very much like to be described as intellectuals, including House Speaker Paul Ryan. Huh, okay.
I
New
don't know
York
much
Times
about
opinion
that.
editor Barry Weiss and YouTuber Dave Rubin. Okay, so you mentioned him.
Yes.
Classical liberalism is the idea that individual freedom and limited government are the best ways for humans to form a free society. Rubin said in a recent video, citing great thinkers such as Adam Smith, John Locke, and John Stuart Mill.
Yes.
So, this is where it gets interesting. It says, alas, the term classic liberal would have been novel to Smith, Locke, or Mill. Mill called himself a socialist. Locke called for a state ban on Catholicism. And Smith favored all manner of enforcements against the free market. So I want to turn that over to you because
Yeah.
you've actually read their stuff more.
I've read Locke's stuff and I've read some of Adam Smith. That's not necessarily true. I don't think Locke would have called himself a socialist at all. He wasn't a monarchist. His big fight is the monarchy. So I think his work on the two treaties of government is basically debunking the idea of divine rights of kings. And I mean, yes, it's a religious argument, but it basically eventually makes the case for individualism, and we can't impose all these things, and the different types of freedom that come. So there's there's allowances as well as what is it? It's permissive freedoms or permissive rights versus inalienable rights and stuff like that. So he really goes into that. Smith in The Wealth of Nations. I mean, there were some things that he got wrong because he has subscribed to the labor theory of value. Von Mises, he actually debunked that. He told us that no value is subjective. But he didn't advocate any kind of controls. In fact, he advocated for the removal of government controls and regulations and stuff like that. So that it's the complete opposite. I mean, if you read these things in context, Adam Smith built the Western economic system. He was a Scottish economist, and a lot of people in Asia attribute Adam Smith for like the success of Hong Kong and Singapore and all these other kinds of things. Small government, that kind of stuff. So no, I don't think they got that.
The corporate radio gurus of political theory, von Mises, Hayek, and Friedman, popularized the notion that these thinkers represent a coherent, libertarian-esque school of thought in the 20th century. Over the years, these men debated a handful of different names for the intellectual movement. They organize classical liberalism or neoliberalism, now a slur in the Democratic Party, and libertarianism, now a particularly aggressive strain. It's like a disease of the classical liberal bug. Wow.
That's
among others. They trace their lineage back to Smith, but their political vision was contemporary and unique, insisting that unfettered markets offer a better path to social deliverance than the unpredictable currents of political democracy. Oh, geez. Just as you should avert your ears from any band in the 21st century calling itself classic rock, so too should you be alarmed of today's purveyor of classical liberalism. Whatever classical liberals say about their ideas and practice, they have always functioned as a respectable intellectual veneer for authoritarian.
How the hell do they get authoritarian from less government? That doesn't make any sense. So I mean, his gripe in this entire thing is the use of classical liberal in the same way as classical rock, and he's saying, well, there's no such thing as classical rock, it was just rock. But I mean, you know, in the 1700s, there was no such thing as classical music. It was just music, right? You got your Mozart and Bach and these guys. But now that time has moved on, it is now called classical music. So even though the term, you know, at the time did not have that meaning, it evolved, right? So he's not really making any kind of argument.
In his 1927 book, Liberalism, reissued with the subtitle In the Classic Tradition in 1962, Mises applauded Mussolini's fascist party and similar movements aiming at the establishment of dictatorships across Europe, saying they had, for the moment, saved European civilization, a merit that would live on eternally in history.
I don't know. I haven't read Liberalism by Mises. I haven't read that one, so I can't say for sure.
In the 1970s, yeah, Hayek defended his decision to advise Chilean butcher Augusto Pinochet, by saying he would prefer a liberal dictator to democratic government lacking liberalism, in the classic sense, mind you. Oh, geez.
I don't know enough about that.
And see, we're looking here and we're seeing, I mean, these are just comments in one book in some passage somewhere. It just, you know, no context.
Yeah, and even if you pull, okay, so they did some shit, right? So they didn't get everything right. Like I already pointed out, like Adam Smith got the labor theory, he got that completely wrong, and that sparked Marxism, was based off the idea of the labor theory of value. So just because they got some stuff wrong doesn't throw the entire theory out, right? I think it's the part to the whole fallacy where, you know, they got a part wrong, so therefore the whole thing is wrong, right? So that's obviously not true. If you get a flat tire, which is a part that goes wrong, you don't get rid of your car. So they're really grasping at straws with this kind of reasoning.
Yeah,
if you can call it that.
So it says the most influential of the original classical liberals was Friedman, one of National Review founder William F. Buckley's skiing buddies. Friedman was a brilliant economist who focused much of his career on providing statistical evidence that government efforts to solve problems really just made them worse. Okay?
True.
Medical licensing for doctors, he argued, ultimately raised the cost for patients. Rent control inevitably made housing more expensive.
Correct.
What?
Is that Buckley? I can't read what it says.
Barry Goldwater.
Goldwater, okay.
Oh, look, the OK sign.
What is that supposed to mean again? That's like white power or something?
Yeah,
some shit?
okay. Oh, you know. He was advisor to Arizona Senator Goldwater in 1964's presidential campaign at a time when in academic circles admitting to Goldwater leanings was close to wearing the scarlet letter. According to contemporary Wall Street Journal, Goldwater sewed up the Republican Party's nomination by uniting delegations from the South and West against mega-rich North Republican Nelson Rockefeller. The campaign was almost entirely about racial politics, specifically in the 64 Civil Rights Act. Rockefeller, a financial supporter of MLK Jr., wanted Republicans.
I don't know what any of this has to do with
exactly. There's all this stuff. So they're setting this all up, saying that so Friedman was an advisor to Goldwater.
Right.
Goldwater voted against the Civil Rights Act.
Right.
Wanted to unmistakably establish the party of Lincoln as the white man's party, according to a columnist.
I mean, I know Robert Novak. He was a very big conservative speaker. I don't know if that's true. Again, I don't know enough about what he said.
But basically, they're trying to draw a very weird connection between, here's a good Republican, Rockefeller, but then Friedman is supporting Goldwater, who was against the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
It's further establishing the classical liberalism being a racist ideology.
Right, that's what they're trying to push. Exactly. They're trying to connect this to race.
So Friedman insisted that Civil Rights Act and other federal maneuvers to end segregation would backfire. The path to black liberation, he insisted, was a firm commitment to laissez-faire free market economics. Racism, according to Friedman, was a competitive disadvantage Firms would miss out on the best talent by discriminating against black workers, and white customers who refuse to shop alongside black customers would miss out on lower prices. In time, the market would administer racial harmony more efficiently than the federal government could. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, they've missed the whole issue of the Jim Crow laws.
This is the whole thing here. This whole paragraph pretty much just shows why confirms why Friedman was so against basically trying to undo racial injustices through federal mandate.
Correct. But it fails to recognize that the whole reason there was segregation was because of government mandate, right? Yeah. The Jim Crow laws were in effect, I think, in the South, and it was a government policy that encouraged segregation. But there were a lot of businesses that said, well, fuck this shit. I want customers. And a lot of them didn't actually comply. And a lot of them actually got taken to court by the state because of free market capitalism. They didn't give a shit who.
Why do I have to build a second water fountain in my restaurant?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I have to have separate areas and spend money on signage?
Yeah, that is exactly what happened. A lot of bakers, butchers, and stuff like that. It's like, it's the same meat, right? It's not like there's black meat and white meat. I mean, come on.
Hold on. You're saying the government was making people bake cakes for white people and black people separately?
Yeah, it was. Well, I don't know how it worked at a bakery. I didn't live in that.
I'm just saying it's funny how
it is total craziness.
Right.
And I think this actually raises a very interesting point. A lot of people have the idea that, especially progressives, that believe that government is a source of good and it's a source of right and change and all this other nonsense. But no, that's not how it works. Government follows, the political atmosphere in which it's in, which means the only reason those laws were changed is because the people rose up and said, look, we do not want these Jim Crow laws and segregation and all this other kinds of stuff. So the desire to eradicate segregation was already amongst the will of the people. Now, I agree there were definitely hard holdouts. I think the Alabama school, for instance, where they brought in the black students and they had to call the National Guard. You had racists in the South. I'm not denying that in any kind of capacity. But at the same time, the minorities of those races were not enough to foil the political will of the people.
Right.
And that changed the laws.
If anything, if you look, I mean, segregation, racism, and all that was definitely obviously it's a bigger problem in the 60s, but it seems the way they portray it is like pre and post Civil War racism.
Yeah.
Pretty much stayed as strong as it was, and then the 60s came and then it all just changed. Like after the Civil War, racism and stuff started to go away. Like it's been a progression the whole time. The impression I get, at least, just the perception that a lot of progressives tend to kind of give, is sort of the racism of the Civil War.
Yeah.
Pretty much just stayed constant until the 60s, and then it dropped.
Right.
And it's making this resurgence, like we're back to pre-Civil War racism. And it's like, no. There's always been a decline with sudden, with other obvious spikes where random, where violence breaks out, issues come up where we talk about it. It's going to be an issue we're going to be talking about for a while.
Correct.
But the general public sentiment towards racism is hugely, just a huge majority being very negative against this. Racism is bad.
Correct. But now we're going to the other extreme. So government had enforced segregation.
Yeah.
And then, so they got rid of the Jim Crow laws and they had the Civil Rights Act, right? But now we're going to government enforced diversity, right?
Which is worse.
That's forced integration. So on one hand you have segregation, now you have forced integration. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
The right to voluntarily associate is a fundamental human right. And as I say, You know, when you decide to get married, if you decide to get married, you want the right to associate with the wife that you choose, right? But you don't want the state coming in and say, well, you know, she's too tall, she's too this, she's too that, she has to be this, that, and the other, right? You don't want the state telling you who your friends have to be. You don't want, I mean, there's a litany of these different types of things. And all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, it comes even to modern day. You got the trans question.
Yeah.
Not sorry, the question about trans. I'm saying the trans question, and people are going to go, just with the question regarding transgender people, with the, I mean, just this random movement to basically say, like, if you won't date a trans person, you know, you're transphobic or whatever. I mean, who's this? You know, if the slippery slope that can become some sort of government mandate or some change where people are essentially not required, you know, whether or not people, you know, a trans person is required to tell you they're trans or not.
Yeah.
There's that could become a thing in the future where then it becomes, does the government mandate that you don't have to, or does government mandate you have to say it, or you just leave it alone?
Yeah.
You know, you go to Thailand, there's no cops to go to if you end up with the wrong kind of person. But yeah, so let's just finish this quick here, but there's a couple more paragraphs, but
sure.
Okay. He believed the same was true in education. Friedman called for government to provide families with school vouchers, which they could spend to purchase a spot for their children at a school of their choice, public or private. So school vouchers, we're talking about that today too. The competition in the market for education would empower Black America better and faster than integrating schools by busing kids from different neighborhoods. Yeah.
I agree.
It's like, well, you want to go to this school, we go to this school. Of course, rank and file Republicans who pulled the lever for Goldwater in 1964 thought Friedman was totally wrong. They didn't oppose Brown versus Board of Education and the Civil Rights Act because they believed these landmarks would prevent integration. They liked Goldwater because they thought he would defend Jim Crow's social order. Friedman's classical liberalism just gave elite conservatives an excuse to ally with the nation's most belligerent racists, something to say at a Katuk party to establish a bit of rhetorical distance between themselves and the rabble.
Well, hold on. That is a very unfair comparison to Friedman. Friedman is an economist, and anybody like you and I both know, on the political compass, there is authoritarian versus libertarian, or basically anarchy, and then there's an economic spectrum, which is, you know, heavy regulation, basically communism versus the free market, right?
Your left and right is your fiscal, your up and down is your government sort of size of government. Yeah.
Correct. Right. So they're talking all about this racist stuff, which falls squarely in the social aspects of politics. This is not an economic issue. Now, economics will play a part. Like Friedman had a view that the free market could help with integration. So they're trying to marry the social and point to the economics of Friedman and try to make an argument. And you can't. They're apples and oranges.
I mean,
you don't.
I think I've seen a couple times where people have tried to draw Friedman into some more social questions, and he doesn't really get into it too much.
No. I mean, there's a great debate with Thomas Sowell, he's a Black economist, world famous. I think he's just about retired and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And the same discussions we're having today about, you know, race relations, women in the workplace, the gender pay gap, all of these things, he addressed them back in the 1960s, probably 1970s. There's some great clips.
I've seen some old videos of him addressing the pay gap. I was like, what?
Yeah. Back then in the 1960s, like, this is the early advent of national television, and we still have these problems persisting today. So yeah, I think between the two of them, they covered a lot of social ills that could be solved by the free market, but that doesn't bring those things into the realm of economics, right? They're economic solutions that can provide social solutions, but they're not social does not equal economic. So trying to pay, I mean, I don't know very much about Goldwater.
Just because you're for free markets doesn't mean you're a racist.
Basically. Correct. And in fact, it doesn't mean on the other end of the spectrum, you can be a racist and still support the free market, right? And that's the distinction. The free market principles, which again, you know, his comments about Mussolini and the Italian government. I don't know enough about it, but if Mussolini's plan was to liberalize the economy while containing social, you know, like a social grip on, you know, pornography or dress and stuff, two different things. Two very different things. It's China with a communist government, but it's got a free market wing, right? There's the social,
which is what China is. I mean, people are, you know, people kind of
all of Asia.
Yeah, people are freak out when Trump's talking about China. It's like, well, as a businessman, Trump sees China as a good thing because they're introducing more free market economics while still maintaining a very strong social, as you say, social grip on their country.
Correct.
You know, you have to believe these things, but you can make as much money as you want.
Exactly. So contrasting the two are not, they're not diametrically opposed. They're not opposing views. And I think this is whoever wrote this article.
They're different. Yeah, they're different spectrums of But Paul Ryan may as well be the purest classical liberal in today's revival, despite his relatively recent conversion. After spending weeks his entire career touting his conservative credentials, Ryan announced a few weeks ago before the 2016 election, he says, "I really call myself a classical liberal more than a conservative." As the top Republican in the House, Ryan often bemoans Trump's coarseness while dutifully supporting every single Trump policy initiative. Well, I mean, he's a politician still.
Yeah, he's got to toe the party line. That's not a bad thing.
That's I mean, if he's a leader in the party, he's got to obviously try to do his best. So, never
is he Speaker of the House or something?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, okay.
Never Trumpers like Weiss use similar rhetorical maneuvers when they discuss policy, including many prefer to write about famous conservatives. It kills me that Trump and the Republican Party are turning Israel, which should be a progressive issue, into a right-wing one. Weiss told Bill Maher in May, Weiss doesn't support the Trump administration's decision to move the U.S. embassy from in Israel to Jerusalem because she's a conservative. Don't confuse her with a common Trumper when she dismisses the deaths of more than 50 Palestinian protesters. Okay, why does this matter?
Again, this has nothing to do with classical liberalism. As
Reason Magazine's Nick Gillespie recently did, that the intellectual dark by the Weiss has been lionizing is religious to team people who totally agree that Islam is a religion of hate. On the contrary, Reese is a classical liberal. She doesn't listen to classic rock, you see. She only listens to vinyl.
That article makes no sense. Is there any more to it, or that's
it? All right, Zach Carter.
Click on Zach Carter. Can we see like his profile or something?
I think maybe towards the bottom.
I would love to see. Is he like a bona fide Marxist?
Senior political economy reporter. Working out of DC, his story swiped banks, merchants, and why Washington doesn't work for you. Written by. He previously worked for as an economics editor, blogged about economic policy at Campaign for America's Future, and served as a steering committee at Americans for Financial Reform. Before any of that, he worked as a banking reporter for SNL Financial News.
What was that? FNL?
SNL.
SNL. As in Saturday Night Live? I don't know.
Let's see. One sec here. Let me quickly check this.
That's some weird stuff.
But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, like as I was saying, they have not drawn any distinction between, being a classical liberal basically means somebody who believes in libertarianism. They believe socially you could do what you want as long as you're not hurting anyone, and economically we need free markets. Is where people thrive the best. They're not anarchists. They do believe in some limited government to keep overreach and other things like that.
Oh yeah,
but again, pulling out somebody like Milton Friedman or von Mises and these other guys who were economists. These are guys dealing with the economics of the free market and trying to paint, okay, so they've made some bad choices and stuff like that, maybe on the social or even in the political arena, does not negate the idea of classical liberalism.
It's freaking.
Did you get this? Did you get his thing up?
SNL News. It's a wing of financial news reporting out of Bloomberg.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I mean, so it doesn't really say much about his political leanings, but I mean, the guy is
not great.
Like, I mean, he's an economic reporter, so, but I mean, he's, again, with the whole progressive nonsense, progressives trying to, basically, they have no context. They're not providing context. They're not showing any awareness of how the political spectrum even it works. They think of it strictly left and right. They're not, the up and down of the political quadrants to realize that classical liberalism doesn't necessarily include classical liberal. They're saying classical liberalism when they're talking about economists.
Yeah,
which is, it's like, no. If you want to talk about classical liberals, wouldn't you want to talk about political commentators, political thinkers?
Correct. So that's where the Dave Rubins would come in. So if you want to talk the economics, you point to, okay, Milton Friedman, von Mises, Hayek, these guys.
But they wouldn't be classical. There's no such thing as classical liberal economics. It's,
well, there's different schools. So Milton Friedman was the Chicago school. Hayek was Austrian economics. Subtle differences, but it's not made. Basically, how they deal with money and the gold standard and stuff. And then you got political liberalism, right? Which is where like Dave Rubin would come in, because he's not dealing in the economics, he's dealing with the social commentary and the political, milieu. So you have to kind of cover the spectrum in that regard, and pointing out people who've made mistakes and they got things wrong doesn't disqualify their work. Right, I mean, it just doesn't. So they really didn't make much of a point in all of that.
I mean, so here we're going to talk about a political leaning, and let's point to all these economists.
Right, exactly. And then you try to pin it on, what's his name, Paul Ryan, who calls himself a classical liberal, and but what is he? Even if you do that, so what? That doesn't prove it's racist or anything like that. But what they're banking on is people hate Republicans, and if he's the top Republican and he calls himself a classical liberal, therefore classical liberalism is bad. And that's a stretch. You can't make that connection.
There's no understanding of why people are doing why they're doing. Paul Ryan has to toe the line because he's the leader.
Yeah, he's the leader, Speaker of the House of the party.
Yeah. But then they don't even talk. They just say, "Oh, Rubin says he's classical liberal. Here's how he defines it," and they leave it at that. They don't even go, "Oh, because he believes in these things, this makes sense." They're like, "Okay, we point out Rubin," which is kind of, I mean, not to go and say that Rubin is whatever, but I think Rubin kind of represents a very balanced view and comprehensive view on what is classical liberalism supposed to be today. You have him, you have Sargon, mainly Rubin.
I mean, all of those Matt Christiansen, all of the alternative media guys that we listen to. Yeah, I would say for the most part, I think I only know of two that would actually call themselves conservative. But it's a minute difference. It is a minute difference. You see, it's the same problem with the term in the media of the alt-right. Now, when we started out on the stream and stuff like that, the alt-right was popularized by Milo Yiannopoulos.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about Pepe memes, and it was all Kakistan and all this great stuff, right? So it was an alternative to the old People's Republican Party, which is where alt-right came in. And I think that if people probably look at our early stream, we might both say we're probably alt-right. But the problem is that the term then evolved, right? And it evolved into the Richard Spencer version, which is the ethno-state nationalist version of it, right? And that's when those of us with common sense and not agreeing with this ideology abandoned the term. I'd be like, no, that if this is associated with that.
I remember talking about Johnson before the election, and people said, "Oh, so you're alt-right."
Right. I don't know what they thought it meant.
Well, they figured
found out about,
they figured libertarianism at the time supporting Johnson was basically like Republican light, like, oh, you're just a Republican, that's a little more cool,
right?
And it's like no. And so they figured that was like alt-right. Alt-right was pretty much libertarian, classical liberal, white supremacist, like just a whole bunch of like weird, what would be considered weird fringe sort of political ideologies, the good and the bad ones, all mashed into this term.
Correct. And that's it. I mean, we've since abandoned the term alt-right.
Yeah.
And it's now synonymous with the racist nationalist movement, right?
Yeah.
But the media doesn't use the term correctly, right? Because at least out here in the UK, everybody's fucking alt-right, right? From Mark Meacham, Count Dankula, and his Nazi pug meme jokes, to Sargon, Millennium, Roaming Millennium, right? Okay, yeah, all of these people in like smear pieces against them have all been labeled as alt-right or extreme right or whatever you want to say. And again, it's the media not understanding the phrases that they're using, and they're just trying to make these forced connections, right? The apples and oranges types of connections. And again, you cannot say, okay, so maybe in the past you and I may have said that yeah, we're probably part of the alt-right on the Milo Yiannopoulos type of Pepe meme type of thinking. But if you'd asked us what we meant by that, we would have explained, right? It's kind of poking fun at the authorities and whatever.
Kind of we're kind of versus Yiannopoulos, we're like just playful provocateuring and memes and shit posting, hence shitlord preachers. We're still kind of like that, but we're still kind of we're very much opposed to the present day alt-right idea of white supremacy and ethno-states,
whatever.
Although we understand and can talk about the issues, we obviously do not agree. And another thing too, I wanted to make this disclaimer for anyone that was watching, we're referring to Trump as the God Emperor. This is all irony. We're not serious. Because you throw out those words and
out of context.
He said he's the God Emperor. Who seriously calls him the God? Like, who unironically calls him the God Emperor? That you should be worried about.
Yeah. I mean, we use it ironically, and I mean, there is Trump mania. There are people who are just like totally on the Trump train, and all that. God bless him. Right?
What was it? Dankula came up with a new term. People who call others alt-right unironically and without knowing. Like, let's say, so someone called me alt-right and they don't know the term, obviously.
Yeah.
He said he has a term for those kinds of people. Alt-spurred. People who call others alt-right without knowing what alt-right is are alt-spurred. He called them.
Dankula is fantastic, man. And I mean, he gets that a lot. So like, he actually got into a discussion with a journalist out here. I can't remember who it was.
On the radio?
I can't remember where it was.
There was some clip I found him on the radio.
Yeah, I think he did the interview afterwards and stuff. But he basically he told the story of how he confronted the journalist,
right,
for calling him alt-right and stuff like that. And the journalist obviously doesn't know what the term means, and they basically think it's a broad umbrella, right? When it may be broad in some ways, but it's clearly defined narrowly as being now an ethno state of some kind. So yeah. I know a lot of people have been taking a lot of crap for all of that, you know.
Jeez. Would you say? I mean, would you consider yourself a classical liberal?
Am yeah, I would say I'm probably a classical liberal in the sense. I mean, I prefer libertarian or
Yeah.
minarchist to an extent.
ANCAP.
Yeah, ANCAP. I'll go with ANCAP. And the reason is because I come from the Western Hemisphere. Liberal has had a very bad connotation. So I got it off of the American news and stuff like that. So liberal was like a slur. Like if you're a liberal, you were a moron, right? So I still have a bit of that thinking going on. So even though I might say, yeah, okay, I understand what it is now as a classical liberal, yeah, I could call myself that. I don't use the term because I still have that old
I mean, I was talking to our friends over at Sarcasm and Liberty, the one of their streams, and said pretty much in the EU as a whole, the mainstream political landscape, left and right, are both on the left.
Pretty much.
I said, like in the UK, for example, you have your conservatives and your liberals, but really it's just a matter of how much money are we going to put into this socialist machine. Yeah. One wants to put a little less in it. One wants to put a little bit more in it. It's like
that is entirely true. There is no right party.
But I mean, you have them.
I'd say UKIP, the Libertarian Party. There are a couple smaller ones,
but UKIP they're not. But I'm saying in terms of mainstream. I mean, in mainstream, correct. Republicans and Democrats are still very left and right, but yes. Different ways. I guess. They tend to be on the I guess in the quadrants. They're both kind of left and right of center.
Yeah,
but they're both higher
One
up.
Is on higher up. Yeah, exactly.
They're both high up on the authoritarian scale.
Correct.
In different ways. So, whereas in in the UK, it's like, oh, we're both over here.
Yeah, no, that's true.
We're both in the left and up a bit.
The conservatives are supposed to be the party of Margaret Thatcher, free market economy, slower taxes, and all this different kinds of stuff, right? But in reality, it's more social spending, more government spending, more welfare, because they're trying to preserve power, right? The UK is 1,000 years old. England is 1,000 years old, almost 1,000 years old, since 1066 and William the Conqueror. And the union with Scotland and everything else has been around for the last between 300 and 400 years. You're talking about a very old civilization, right? And I think this is the problem. Everything that could be politicized has been politicized. So there's nothing really left for these people to do. Like every possible law that could be put on the books is on the books. So now they're getting ridiculous. Now they're policing thought, right? And feelings and people who are offended.
I mean, China has 5,000 years of history, and they've come and done that already.
Exactly. But I mean, they had a revolution, right? They had
yeah. But you get what I'm saying. You look at these old nations that have gone through time, like.
You both, and this is what ends up happening. I think the older the nation, the more authoritarian the country. So I think you're probably right. China is a very good example of that, which was a point I was going to make. Because this is what ends up happening is that politicians have to justify their paycheck. And in this day and age with the technology and stuff like that, we do not need a state as big as this in the UK. We do not need a public service as big as this in the UK. Everything can be done online. Every form, every tax return, every renewal of licenses, marriage certificates. You don't need this. We call it Leviathan. We don't need Leviathan to be this big. But so they need to justify their existence. So they're picking these fringe things like feminism and trans rights and all this other shit. And butter knives and banning cars in parts of London and all this other nonsense.
Yeah, I heard about that. Car control?
Well, for those who don't know, a couple of days ago, I can't remember the exact date, a Somali immigrant who was previously arrested for acts of terrorism but was released, drove his car into one of Merkel's Lego outside of the Parliament building, and he ran over a couple cyclists and hit a couple pedestrians. I think only one person died. I think everybody else is kind of going to recover because he didn't have a lot of room to kind of get up to speed and do a lot of damage. But so logically thinking, you would figure, all right, well, we just need to take these terrorism cases seriously. We need to nip it in the bud. You know, when he was arrested the first time, he should not have been released. That judge should go under query. And that's how we're going to, you know, prevent this kind of thing before. If you're convicted of some kind of terrorism, you should be taken off the streets. No, that's too simple, right? What they're going to do instead is more government, which is let's ban cars.
Let's put some controls on those, those things we've been driving for quite a while. And
yeah, I mean, it's a problem created by the state because they imported, especially the Somalis. Now, I'm not disputing there are some legitimate asylum-seeking Somali people, but they're coming from a war-torn country that doesn't have a functioning government. And they came out here with a level of violence, not all, but the gangs came out here, the Somali gangs came out here with such a level of violence that every other gang had to like arm up. Like they just had to escalate.
Yeah.
This is what is going on in London right now. So you're reading about the stabbings and the acid attacks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a result of importing these population groups that all they've known their whole life has been violence. You come from a war-torn country. That's all you know.
Right. Yeah. It's
yeah. So what's the solution? Well, maybe you should kind of reduce the amount of people you're bringing from these types of areas,
or send them out,
or get rid of them. Yeah. I mean, deportation. But you see, nobody wants to be called racist in the UK.
That's expensive too.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same reason that this guy was released, is nobody wants to basically be called racist.
Yeah. But yeah, you had the thing on Trump's tweets. We got to get through that.
Yeah, we could get to that really quick. All right, let me see if I can share my screen here. All right, tell me if you're seeing that.
Yep, and then you click present to everyone.
Did I not do that?
No, you didn't.
Where is the present to everyone? Does not show up.
It should be in the top of the window of the Hangouts window.
So
go back to the Hangouts window.
Let's try that again. It just says I'm sharing the screen. It doesn't actually say I know normally it says present to everyone, so I don't know.
It's saying it. Okay.
Hopefully everybody's seeing this. Otherwise, we will put links in the description below if anybody wants to see. So here is our orange leader. Politico. No, not my favorite source, but I'm not going to get into the article. I'm going to read his tweets, because the only reason I came to this was because I wanted his tweets. So he said this recently, and he did it in 3 tweets. And everything he said here is correct. In fact, I don't think he could have said it any better. So starting from this point, social media is totally discriminating against Republican/conservative voices. Speaking loudly and clearly for the Trump administration, we won't let that happen. They are closing down the opinions of many people on the right, while at the same time doing nothing to others. Second tweet. Censorship is a very dangerous thing and absolutely impossible to police. If you're weeding out fake news, there is nothing so fake as CNN and MSNBC. And yet I do not ask that their sick behavior be removed. I get used to it, I watch it with a grain of salt, or I don't watch it at all. There is a third one. Is this it? Too many voices are being destroyed, some good, some bad, and that cannot be allowed to happen. Who is making these choices? Who's making the choices? Because I can already tell you that too many mistakes are being made. Let everybody participate, good and bad, and we will just have to figure it out. Now I have to say, in regards to what the president had to say on this issue, I think that was perfect. you know, to make the distinction, okay, so Republican and conservative, because not all conservatives consider themselves Republicans. I thought that was really brilliant. But he's definitely highlighting it as a result of Alex Jones and others that have come forward and stuff like that. And he makes the point. He makes a fantastic point about the fake news incidents regarding, well, CNN and MSNBC and stuff like that. And he said exactly what you do. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't watch it. Like you and Star Trek Discovery, you didn't watch it.
No.
Right? Right? I didn't go and see Star Wars Solo. I don't really care to see these things. But again, the left doesn't understand these things. The left is all about censorship, deplatform, take them down, and stuff like that. And you know, lastly on that point is, you know, he's making the I don't know what move he's going to make. I don't know what postulating is going to happen. But I'm pretty sure the people in Silicon Valley are probably getting rather nervous at this point, especially after what happened to Alex Jones. And I saw the interview with Sargon and Paul Joseph Watson more recently. And they sat down for a couple of drinks and some smokes, and they discussed, you know, Brexit and some European UK politics. And Paul Joseph Watson made the point that as a conservative speaker and you know, he's part of InfoWars and stuff like that, they are in touch with the Trump administration, like directly, right? They are in touch with them directly. Apparently, the administration came to them and said, like, okay, explain to us, what is this censorship? What is this deplatforming? You know, show us what's going on. And something's coming. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to be. It might be an internet bill of rights or something like that, which might be pretty cool. But this type of behavior is not gonna.
So at what point, where does it intersect between Twitter as a business and they can do what they want?
Right. This is the difference. If it is they are a platform, right, and they have terms of service, and somebody violates the terms of service, I would say that's legitimate. However, the terms of service are so vague, so open to interpretation, that it basically means anything. It could be, you know, and which is what this is the guys that they're using.
Right. So how would that?
That's right. I mean, if they're going to do that, is a company
entitled to its subjective meanings, you know?
But if I'm totally in favor if a company is entitled to that. If it's destroying people's livelihoods to do so, they should be liable. So I'm saying you can do it, but don't be surprised that people who lose all their money, they should be able to sue.
It could be considered like slander, I guess, or of some, not slander.
Not slander, but no, they should sue for damages, right? If I think they're entitled to do it, but if they're gonna do it, they should be entitled for libel. And right now they're not. The internet laws are such that Facebook, Twitter, Google, all these things, they're considered platforms.
I guess it's like if
the radical New York Times to you and crap about you, you can sue the New York Times for slander. But you can't do that with Facebook. If somebody writes a tweet or something like that, you cannot sue Facebook for whatever they've said, because technically it's a platform. They're not releasing and not releasing some information. But the minute you start doing that, you're no longer a platform, you're a media company. Right? So just like the New York Times will publish the article written by some author, the author doesn't get sued, the New York Times gets sued because they chose to release the information. The internet laws protect Google and Facebook and these people from doing that. But if they're going to start doing like they are a media company, saying who can speak, who can't speak, and I think even a Republican governor or something like that running in Massachusetts or somewhere up in New England area, their entire campaign ad was taken off of Facebook, like entirely. And it wasn't even, I mean, I didn't see the ad, so I don't know. I don't know what it was. But if Facebook is going to do that, with such vagary, fine. But if it's causing damage to people's lives, they should be liable for damages. And that's my take on it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like YouTube. YouTube decided just arbitrarily to demonetize everybody, as you know, under 1,000 subscribers and under like 4,000 watch hours or whatever. Right? To cut down on fake news and to cut down on spammy accounts and stuff like that. Well, first of all, that's garbage, because anybody who has fake news and spammy accounts is not going to be a small-time YouTuber, right? So it's a ruse. It's bullshit, right?
Right.
And the shadow banning and the demonetizing, for some people are trying to make a living doing this on YouTube, and they can't do it. So a lot of people are going to try and sue, but they're basically going to say, well, we're protected by this law, right? We can basically do what we want, even if we destroy your life or your livelihood.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that has to change.
Huh. I'm just thinking it all through. It's
tough. And I agree with you. I think the companies should be able to do what they want. However, that could change. Like, they could try to regulate them similar to utilities, which I'm not necessarily in favor of, but it is a possible solution. So just like the power company can't decide whether they're going to, they don't like you, so they're just not going to sell you power.
right.
Whatever. I mean, whatever. Something like that. They might impose some kinds of social media types of equal access kind of rights sort of thing, and impose it on these companies. Now, I'm not in favor of more government. I think, okay, if you're going to do these things, you should be liable for your actions. But something like that could be coming, which is probably why Facebook and a lot of these companies are kind of, their stocks are taking a dive at the moment. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Trump does with that. And of course, it's probably going to be twisted into some racist narrative again.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, no, he's racist because these... I can't help but note, but think about a lot of these... what are they? You see a lot of these, like, not Vice... Now This, or just a lot of these like left-leaning sort of clickbaity online news. Yeah. They'll do videos on people you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Like there's some like prominent icon in some industry. Like, oh, I'm a black, trans, Muslim, Arabic,
disabled
comedian.
And
I stand up for, I do I do animal rights jokes, but it's not jokes because I'm virtue signaling, and it's like without Now This, they wouldn't have a platform. So
Correct.
then they could possibly take that and twist it and say, well, these people, don't have equal representation under this new Bill of Rights because now it allows anyone with nonsense and I don't know.
Yeah. As I say, I never listened to Alex Jones. I don't know if you listen to Alex Jones, right?
If I want to like be entertained, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the memes. I see more memes and clips of Alex Jones than I actually watched. But okay, so I may not subscribe to his material, and I may not agree with some of the more bizarre conspiracy theories. I think he got in trouble over the Sandy Hook incident where he basically said that the shooting was a false flag and didn't really happen.
Hey, but the frogs did turn gay, though.
The frogs are turning gay, apparently.
They did.
That's a true thing, yes. So, all right. So but I do not believe anybody has the right to basically say he's got to shut up, right? And it's coordinated. Like even his website has been taken down. Like he can't even host.
Wasn't like all this stuff done within like a day?
Yeah, I think it's over the space. The first day was like the most of them, and then over the next couple of days, like the rest of them went down.
Like like the joke about conspiracy theorists, the meme of conspiracy theories gets shut down by big companies.
Yeah. kind of proving the conspiracy theorists.
I mean, regardless of what theories were necessarily confirming or denying, that's still sketchy as hell. Like, if he's such a nutcase, why would you fuel his narrative?
Yes, exactly. Like, they have made Alex Jones the #1 podcast on like on his app. Like, his app is like #3. At one time it was #1, but it's now #3.
What was it? Yeah, Dankula took a screenshot of the App Store.
Yeah,
it basically had #1, #2, and then #4, because it would show Infowars as 3.
Right.
But the algorithm couldn't really, change that. So just 1, 2, 4.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a coordinated attack of censorship upon it. As I say, I don't particularly agree with him, but I don't agree with what these companies are doing. And unless they could point to something that is tangibly a violation of their terms, like they have to say, this is what he said. And okay, even if that's the case, take down that episode. You can't take down everything. That's an overreach of power.
I mean, what was it? Have you heard of this? There was this girl on Twitter. She kind of went a little viral because she had like AR-15s in her graduation photos.
I'm not sure if I remember that.
She was like in high school or something. It was her senior photos. It was like her in her graduation gown, and then she had like an AR-15 on the back, or just she was kind of like, there's been an emerging meme of sort of like making fun of the over-the-top conservatives trying to own the libs kind of meme.
Right.
But it's actually gone a little far. So like at first it was like, oh, look at me with my handguns and rifles and my senior photos, and I'm this girl. Like, you've seen the whole what was it, the white girl with the Bible and the American flag and a gun?
Yeah. I've seen that picture.
So she kind of had something similar. Well, this girl like went viral on Twitter, and so now she went a step further and was just doing some dumb shit. Like, she went to an Apple store, and basically took all the laptops and the iPhones and turned on Infowars.
Oh, really?
All of them. And it was just like, why? It was kind of like, oh, look at me owning the libs. I went to an Apple store and did something that's essentially kind of like what an SJW would do.
Yeah, like, I mean, that is a bit of trolling out of. I mean, it's nobody got hurt from that, so I can't exactly. I don't know.
Yeah, it just seemed it seemed a little like childish, like, really.
Sure, it's stupid, but nobody got hurt from that. I mean, that's not SJWs get people fired,
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. So it was just kind of funny because I saw this, I'm like, really, we're gonna be like, just it seemed petty to me, but because I think there's a better way to troll. I mean, you go into an Apple store, into an Apple store, and there's a bunch of people there who probably don't give a shit about what Apple is doing. They're just working.
They're just trying to do their job, yeah.
And there's this Infowars everywhere. They're just, gotta go close this out because we don't want to trigger people in the store. And that's like going to a McDonald's and
ordering a Subway.
No, not like that. Like, it's like going to a McDonald's and leaving your tray with garbage on it, like at your table.
Okay. Don't people do that all the time?
Well,
no. It's like going to McDonald's and putting up a poster for Wendy's. That's what it's like.
Yeah, okay, we'll say that. I was just saying, I'm thinking garbage, like, because when I worked at McDonald's, it was a lot of like, just we put stuff. People would just leave their tray where it is. Yeah. Tray with the garbage and the drinks. It's like, the garbage can's right there. You're supposed to go to the garbage, dump your tray. Yeah, whatever. But just kind of like, really? Like, that's just being,
I see that here all the time. I mean, I'm one of those people, I clean up after myself. So I don't particularly like just leaving something unless they say, oh, I'll take care of it. Like, if somebody comes and says, yeah, just leave it. And,
right. But
it doesn't happen very often. Yeah, it's pretty wrong. So what do you think will come of the Trump administration's? What do you think of the whole censorship thing?
Well, it's definitely affecting. I mean, it's affecting whole livelihoods of people. So people are having to change. But what's good is, for the most part, a lot of people, at least the people who can afford to do it, are creating alternatives.
Correct.
I mean, I don't know if Gab is going to take off, BitChute or VidMe, if that's going to go anywhere.
No, VidMe is gone.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, VidMe, because I was on VidMe for a while, and they closed up shop. They don't exist anymore.
Huh.
Yeah. So the BitChute, yeah, which is torrent technology. I'm on Gab as well. Minds.com possibly might be something.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. So people are doing like Streamlabs for donations. Patreon is still kind of working for some people. I haven't heard much about Maker support. Just ways people can basically make money without relying on YouTube's monetization policies.
Correct.
I mean, then there's people who are doing what is it? There's
did
I
you
know
hear
there's
about
a
the thing
lot.
with MasterCard?
No, I didn't. What's that? What happened with
Hold on
them?
1 second. I just want to make sure I got this right.
MasterCard.
Yeah. Right. So MasterCard, when you set up a Patreon account, you link it to a card, right? And so you put it to your credit card or whatever. And if you get money in, it's sent to the card. Anyway, MasterCard, apparently they didn't like some person who was using Patreon. I was just trying to search to see if I could figure out who it was. But MasterCard contacted Patreon like, hey, this guy is using Patreon. We don't agree with him. You need to, take his stuff down, or we're pulling our support for this card. And they forced Patreon to basically censor and take the money from this guy.
Wow.
That's pretty fucking crazy.
Huh. That's strange.
I'm trying to figure out who it was. I know Tim Cass did a thing about it. Is it they banned Robert Spence? I don't know if that's Richard Spencer. But yeah, there's a whole article on it. I mean, we could probably look at that another time. But yeah, this is the kind of things that these companies are doing. I think there's going to be quite a lot of backlash for MasterCard because of it.
Right.
But yeah.
I guess, I mean, that's pretty much it for the stuff we kind of wanted to talk about. We kind of whipped this together a little bit last minute.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be a lot more prepared for next week. Couple things to announce. I guess I'm going to be trying to reach out to get more guests going. Definitely want to get a series of guests on the show, a lot more. I reached out to our friends over at Sarcasm and Liberty. So they have actually, I mean, we've interviewed Josh, kind of the leader of the group. So I'm going to be reaching out. I've reached out to him. We're waiting to hear back. Basically, get like his individual content creators, contributors to his page. There's one guy, Ginger Liberty Ginger. That's Mike. There's another Mike. Josh's brother, Jason, who's they're kind of partnered on the project, just to kind of have them individually come on, talk about things they really are passionate about talking about regarding libertarianism, just stuff in general. What's his name? And then also, you remember our friend Chris from Think Liberty?
Yeah.
I reached out to him, as well as Caitlin. Caitlin is one of the founding members over there, and seeing to get their people, because they do live streams, they do podcasts and stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff. They even went to what was it? Was it the Unconvention? I think it was called, in Omaha. They went there. It was basically, it's a big convention for a lot of libertarians / sort of not. I mean, they what was it?
They didn't go to Anarchapulco.
Not that I don't know yet. What's his? But Chris got to meet Vermin Supreme.
Hey, cool.
Vermin Supreme actually spoke there. He really I guess he's likes, you know, sort of the idea of the Libertarian Party and stuff. But yeah, they had a booth there selling their stuff, their merch, talking about their stuff, but reaching out to them too. I know there's Chris, there's Caitlin, there's this guy Lonnie. He does some of their streams. They've gotten to interview a lot of prominent libertarians like Larry Sharp. I don't know if they got one of the Pauls. One of as well. I think they also like got to interview some like leadership within the Libertarian Party.
Awesome.
But yeah, reaching out to them to not only to just like obviously get guests on the show, but also to kind of get good. It's just you and me talking every week. We got to get more people in here. No, not that it's not a good thing. I
know what you mean.
We haven't had any guests for a while, so.
Well, we've been off the air for a while as well. So.
Well, there is that too. So, but
yeah, I'll see if I could, because the Libertarian Party convention's coming up here. So I'll see if maybe I can find a couple of people who might want to come on and you know, chew the cud.
Don't just pick up some guy that just showed up, you know.
No. I'll see if I could get.
I went to the conference.
I'm very good friends with the press secretary for the entire party.
Okay.
And she's very big on gun rights and stuff like that. She actually just sent me a petition for, I think, one of the local, not the Olympics.
Yeah, could definitely talk about like
bring it on
popularity of or sort of the movement for gun rights in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, I know the guy who runs the Firearms UK advocacy group. So I'll see if I can probably find a couple of people myself.
Is it the UKRA?
No. There is an NRA out here, but it's we're not allowed self-defense, so it's only for sport. Like the only reason to legitimately own a gun out here is for sport, or if you own like a really big farm.
That's just dumb.
Yeah,
but yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today. We will be back again, of course, next week on Monday, 11 o'clock Central Time. And then after that, we'll see if we get moved to Sunday or we'll keep with the Monday thing. I got to see if my boss will let me change my schedule. But yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel, Brooke's channel. All the info will be below. The 2 articles we mentioned today will be posted in the links below as well. Check us out on Twitter as well. At least I'm fairly active there. Brooke posts a lot of stuff there too. But yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys. Anything else you want to add, Brooke?
No, I think it was a good discussion. It's good to be back, Amos. I think we'll try and keep this up, you know?
Keep it up, and then want to dial up some quality too, maybe some quantity. So we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. Excellent.
All right, man. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you next Monday.
Thanks again, guys. Be sure to subscribe.
All right.